Crookston's a team that Minot State's been able to beat, no matter even last year, through some of the struggles of this D2 transition. Crookston's always been, history suggests a team that you could, scratch a W for. That being said, is the confidence there this week in the group that that'll be the case again this weekend, even on the road?
I think this team has been confident in a lot of games going in, and for whatever reason, just connecting all the dots, so to speak, on game day just hasn't happened. But I think that kids recognize that they're good players. They have a good scheme. They like playing together. I just feel that's kind of how they've been. That being said, I think they do have confidence going into this week, not necessarily because of who we're playing, but just because I think they believe in what they're capable of when they play at their best. And so I think that's really where our confidence is driven from.
Do you feel, Coach, this is a team that has shown its ability to obviously compete, take leads, and that third, fourth quarter come along and things kind of get away a little bit? Is there any concern late in the game at all with anything?
Yeah, there is, and I think for us, we do have the ability to compete, as you had mentioned, and we've gotten better and better with that as the season's gone on. In a lot of ways, we were better with that coming into the year, but being able to sustain it for 4 quarters, that's another challenge. And so I feel we've learned how to compete, but we haven't learned how to win yet, and that's really what that, especially that 4th quarter, where it really shows its head. And so a lot of that deals with just focus for 4 quarters. It's not allowing the emotion of the game ever to overcome you at any one point, and we just have had that a few different times, which has gotten in the way. And it's tough to win in this league, and so you have to just stay steady all the time, and that's what we need to learn how to do.
Coach, like a high point of this team so far this year has been the defense. Do you expect a rebound on that side of the ball this week?
Well, I think our defense last week, at the end of the game, we gave up a couple of possessions that weren't what we were looking for, but they also had played exceptionally well early on in the game. They were in backed up situations on a number of different occasions, from a block punt, bad snap, an interception. They had their backs up against the wall right from the beginning, early in that game, and had it not been for their performance early on, that game could have got out of hand in a hurry. So they held their ground, kept Bemidji out of the end zone on a couple of different possessions, and held them to field goals, which allowed our team to stay tight and then have a little bit of momentum going into halftime. So, to your question, yeah, I think our defense will be ready to play well. I think we've got a good package, we've been working on so far this week, and I think our kids are excited to really let it fly come Saturday.
I think on that defense, you have some good leaders that are able to kind of keep the morale up. I guess as somebody who's leading this team and leading that defense, do you feel at times it's tough for some of those leaders like Aaron and Trevin and Marcel to get a good defensive stop and then turn around, all of a sudden you're defending on your own 6-yard line, after the block punt, for example? Do you find it's tough at times for the defense to kind of stay up for some of these tough situations that they're put in, or do you think the characters in the group where they just say, all right, back on the field?
Well, I think it can be challenging, when you've made a stop and then you're right back out on the field. It definitely can be, for any defense for that matter. I think our team has gotten better and better at not worrying about that. You had mentioned Marcel. I had said something to him last week that just every time he'd come off the field, I would just kind of make eye contact with him, and it seemed like for whatever reason, every time wherever he came off, it seemed like I was always standing right there, and I just felt like just his body language and demeanor, he showed a really confident and focused player. So I don't know if for our players at this stage in the year, at this stage in their careers, that the older guys in particular really are worried about whether they go out and play defense on the 10-yard line or the 50 or the 20 or whatever it is. I think they're pretty good at just, we got a job to do, and the job says we got to go out and get a stop wherever the ball's placed. And so they've gotten a lot better that way. I couldn't say that was how it was when I first got here, but it definitely, I feel that it is now.
Are some things offensively that you think you can exploit against this week?
Well, yeah, we've always talked about that we need to be able to run the ball, but we got to be able to throw the ball too. Need to be able to distribute the ball, quick passing game, drop back passing game, play action vertical shots. I mean, it's something that we're putting a lot of effort into this week, just trying to fine tune that element of our offense. It's very difficult in any level of football, but in our league in particular, to just say we're going to run the ball 40 or 50 times a game and we're just going to be better than you that way. I think that's really hard. And so for us, we've got to develop that passing game if we're ever going to take a step forward offensively. And so we'll see if we can do it against Crookston. We're certainly working towards it in practice. We've been working on it the last couple of weeks more extensively, but our guys need to come through and execute, when their numbers are called as well.
And I know you're not one to look too far in the past, but obviously with Zach going down as early as he did, that threw an immediate cog in the works of what you're hoping to do offensively. But throughout the season, you've shown that you've had playmakers on offense. Porter and Akil have, right off the bat, have been probably your top two playmakers in the pass game. This is something that we seem to be talking about every week. But are you seeing the signs from your quarterbacks, from Jose and Isaiah, signs of progress that you're hoping to see out of those players as you continue to look for more from the pass game?
Yeah, I mean, there's things they do, both of them, that says, okay, we got an idea of what we're supposed to be doing here, and I think a lot of it is just like in a practice setting for a quarterback. They just have to just be incredibly committed to putting the ball in the right spot during practice, because once you get in the game, there's so many variables that can happen in a game that you just don't have time to realistically practice during the week. So if they can show consistency and understanding concepts that we're trying to execute, conceptually what the defense is trying to do, then it allows you to deal with a lot of those variables. So again, going back to your question, I see that they're starting to develop that, just a firmer understanding of what we're trying to do and what they're trying to do, and that allows you to have more success in the throwing world. And I think we've got good quarterbacks in our program. I'd like to see them take another step this week, without question.
How's your special teams been performing this week in practice, Coach? I mean, just is it more than just the repetition to avoid backing up your defense like you were talking about?
Yeah. I mean, our punt team has been a challenge for us. We haven't done well that way, which has been disappointing. We had a long discussion about that as a team on Monday about that, and then again on Tuesday. We worked on it yesterday. We'll work on it again today. A lot of it, the punt team, is just being a good fundamental player, staying square in your protection assignments, getting the appropriate depth away from when the ball from the line of scrimmage when the ball snapped. I mean, it's just having some awareness that way, and then you have to be able to communicate. I mean, really, a punt team becomes in a way an offensive line, because you're passing off blocking assignments and twists and different things. So it's a big point of emphasis this week. We hope that punt team becomes a threat in terms of the yardage we can cover with punts and our coverage unit, on top of that. So it needs to be better, and I think our guys recognize that.
Defensively, we've been talking about this defense and that you've, for the most part, been quite pleased with the way they've played. I think perhaps more than any other week this season, the defense is maybe licking its chops a little bit, looking ahead to a Crookston offense that's struggled for the most part this year.
Well, again, not necessarily. I think they've been pretty competitive throughout the season in terms of their practice preparation, the way they wanted to get themselves ready for games. I mean, we've had some really, really good moments defensively where we've, in my mind, have looked as good of defense as there is. They got it tied together for 4 quarters, but I think there's a lot of guys, Aaron James and Trevin Swenson and Randall Barber, Mitch Mathias. I think there's guys over there that have an attitude like we want to shut down that other team, and we need to do whatever it takes to make that happen. And so I think they're excited to play this week, but again, I think they've been excited and well prepared every week to play. Even if the results hasn't been quite what we wanted defensively, I think their attitude and preparation has been very strong throughout the year.
And just one more question here, Coach. I know ever since the Merritt game, you've been looking for that second win. I know getting more than one win has been, always a goal for this year, showing marked improvement on last season. Do you guys feel that is that extra motivation for you this week to get that second win and to show, a clear, vivid sign of improvement compared with this last year?
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately the bottom line is wins and losses, and so, you know, we need to have as much improvement in that area as we possibly can. There's a lot of other areas that we've improved, you know, statistically, performance-wise, our recruiting, player development. There's a lot of areas, so we recognize there's things we've gotten better with, but it needs to translate to the field. So yeah, we definitely are looking forward to the game and want our guys to play well. We want to get a positive result, you know, notched on our belt, and that's something, of course, that everyone's striving for, you know, players and coaches alike this week.